the Sanders and Orr! Bobby Orr! Orr to the Boston Bruins! Play made. Just brought him strong to his feet. This was the truth. This was the big difference. Hold it. Hold it. You're not that pretty. I'm not bad man. Let's shoot up the world. Reggie Jackson is in his third home run of the game. That's right out of the air. The ball is pulled in. I'll break her head.
With a smile as crooked as a country road and a jump shot sent straight from heaven, the quiet, almost painfully shy basketball genius came to us from a place called Cabin Creek. When Jerry West retired from the Lakers in 1974, he took with him the highest scoring average of any guard in NBA history, and vintage words from Bill Russell. The greatest honor a man can have is the respect and friendship of his peers, Russell said. You have more of that than any man I know.
I think Jerry West was the equal of Michael Jordan.
Michael might have played the game maybe more athletic than Jerry did, but there wasn't a better clutch player in the history of the NBA other than Jerry West.
Now you're going to have Jerry West probably get it, and he's going to try to go all the way, most likely.
He would let it go, and he would just start running to the locker room.
5, 4, 3,
2 points.
Everyone knew Jerry West was going to get the basketball. Before Jerry West shot the basketball, he would always boom, boom, boom. Dribble the basketball really hard, twice. Boom, boom, boom.
Bang, bang, shoot. Bang, bang.
I mean, drive, stop, up, form, in.
You would think that he wasn't that quick, and he was. You would think that he wasn't that aggressive, and he was. You would think that he wasn't that strong, and he was, and the guy was a smart player.
He got all of his accolades because he was such a prolific scorer. But people who knew the game and who had to play against him respected how good he was defensively.
There would be situations where you'd come down 3-on-1 with Jerry West, the only defender, and you were afraid to do anything with the ball because you knew you'd have it going the other way with it.
Hated losing more than any man I've ever been around in my life.
In 1969, the Lakers played the Celtics in the NBA Finals. It was their 6th championship series in 8 seasons, and LA had yet to win a title. West mounted what seemed a personal assault on Boston.
Stop for a 20-footer. It's good. Mr. Clutch got it back.
West finished Game 1 with 53 points and 10 assists. Bill Russell called it the best clutch performance he had ever seen against the Celtics.
We took that for granted, that Jerry West would do that. It wasn't news. Believe me, it didn't get anything extra. That was Jerry West.
And they lost the 3rd game in Boston. We're leading the 4th game. It looked like they were going to win. And another Mr. Clutch guy named Sam Jones threw up an off-balance 40-foot shot from the sidelines, and somehow it went in, tied up the series.
I'm doing the Laker locker room after the game, and Jerry West was crushed. He thought he had his hands on the championship trophy for the first time. And he was just saying, it's not to be. It's not meant to be. We get to these guys and something bad always happens. It's just not meant to be.
The Lakers rebounded in Game 5, but the victory was tainted by a costly decision by coach Butch Van Bredikoff.
The Lakers were winning, I believe, by 15 or 18 points. He kept Jerry West in the game in the last 2 minutes. And in those last 2 minutes, he pulled a hamstring badly.
They shot him with Novocaine. That's what they used to do in those days. If a guy wanted to play. Today they wouldn't play for 6 months. But West would take the Novocaine and refuse to sit out.
Despite 26 points from West, a Celtics victory in Game 6 set up the finale at the LA Forum. As far as the Lakers owner was concerned, it was all over but the cheering.
Jack Cook hired the USC band to come marching in when the Lakers won the World Championship, not if. And he had balloons up in the rafters that were going to be let loose and fall down on the floor when the Lakers won the championship, not if.
It was the most angry I think I've ever been. I thought it was disrespectful, and as it turned out, it was the ultimate embarrassment for all of us.
I take this back to Bill Russell, and he says we're going to run them out of the gym.
That's just what we proceeded to do at halftime. We were up by 16.
When Chamberlain hurt his knee in the fourth quarter, the Lakers seemed finished. But with backup center Mel Counts in the game, West hit several clutch shots. As Boston's lead dwindled, Van Bredekal faced another tough call.
So I told Van Bredekal, I said, the Dipper's ready to go back in. And Van Bredekal said, tell him to go to hell, we don't need him.
Everybody in this arena knows where that ball's going when the Lakers get it, to Jerry West. Jerry West, another one. Now the Lakers within 4 points, a total of 41 for this superstar.
Celtics had a 1-point lead, and they had the ball, and they're trying to hold the ball. There was only a few seconds left, but they had to shoot. So Don Nelson shot. The ball hit the back of the rim, went up about 6 feet, and went in.
That's bad luck when you're Jerry West. And that broke their heart, and that cost them another championship.
With 42 points, 12 assists, and 13 rebounds in Game 7, West remains the only player from a losing team to win Finals MVP. The distinction did little to assuage his hurt.
Jerry West was absolutely fantastic. That was one of the greatest exhibitions I ever saw in my life.
Never have I seen a player take a defeat harder than Jerry West. He was weeping openly, sobbing uncontrollably.
I went down to the locker room with him, and everybody's gone. He's still sitting there. The Novocaines were worn off. Now he's got to get up and walk upstairs. He had to go up the steps at the forum and go in the press rounds, and he had to take the step one at a time, one step at a time. He couldn't even walk hardly.
It was horrible. I really wanted to quit. I mean, I did not want to go on. It was just too painful for me. Sometimes it takes a lot of courage to just go out and play again. And I think with my mentality and the way I felt about the game, it was like life or death to me. And I didn't want to die again. It hurt too much.
But a year later, West led the Lakers into still another Finals. This time the opponent was New York. With seconds left in Game 3, the Knicks took a 2-point lead in a Dave DeBusschere field goal.
The game just cranking down the end, and DeBusschere's made a nice play. And Chamberlain takes the ball out of bounds and throws it to Jerry.
I was running off the court to the locker room. I see this guy, West, dribbling up the court with this hell-bent look on his face. You know, I was like, what is wrong with him?
2 seconds, 1 second. West throws it up. He makes it.
It's the most jubilant I've ever seen Jerry West. He knew that Mr. Clutch had hit again.
West's historic shot was not enough as the Knicks won in overtime. The Lakers won 2 of the next 3. Still, Game 7 was all New York as Willis Reed dragged his injured leg onto the Madison Square Garden floor.
I think we see Willis coming out.
And it was the game that Reed made the dramatic entrance, and everybody remembers that. What really won the game wasn't, no matter what anybody will tell you, it wasn't Willis Reed making those first 2 jump shots. It was Walt Frazier getting 36 points to go with 19 assists that won that game.
Now they begin to move, but the quick hands of Frazier done it again.
Hampered by injuries to both thumbs, West was unable to contain Frazier as the Knicks rolled to the 1970 championship. In his autobiography, Wilt blamed West for the Lakers' breakdown. Frazier whipped Jerry's ass that night, he wrote, as he always does.
And I think Wilt alluded to that fact that I kicked West's butt because a lot of people were blaming him for that loss.
I couldn't even catch the basketball. I had 2 thumbs that I had shot at before the game and at halftime. But it was no excuse. We lost.
It was an aberration. I think my career high I had against the Lakers, 44 points one year. That was in L.A. But other than that, I don't think I ever outscored West.
After his humiliation in the Garden, West once again mourned the death of a dream. 7 times second best, never a winner. A theme for a lifetime, a haunting straight from the hills of West Virginia.
He wanted to be a recluse. He wanted to be alone. Didn't want to talk about it. He couldn't believe that they finished second again.
It would be like he wouldn't talk to anybody for a couple of months in the summer, and he would just have to finally get away from basketball, get away from even thinking about it.
It was just another horrible summer for me, absolutely horrible.
Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology. Better than he was before. Better, stronger, faster.
Introducing the all-new 270-horsepower Chevy Trailblazer, the most powerful mid-size sport utility in the world. It's one strong SUV. The new 2002 Chevy Trailblazer, like a rock.
Want to see your piggy bank really grow? Geico. A 15-minute call could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Still paying too much for car insurance? Geico.
To pay-per-view June 9th. Rugrats are going to Paris.
On ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, an interleague matchup with the Braves taking on the...
Will never be the...
ESPN networks.
West Virginia, oh my home. West Virginia's where I belong. In the dead of the night, in the still, in the quiet, I slip away like a bird in flight back to those hills, the place that I call home.
Cole was West Virginia, or it was then. And he lived in Cabin Creek, West Virginia. That was a coal community. And everybody worked in the coal mines.
It's other people had, but we had a stable background.
A Depression baby, West was born in 1938, the youngest son of Howard and Cecile's 6 children.
He was the baby of his family. He was a mama's boy.
He loved to play. Mother would literally drag him in the house to make him eat and bathe.
He liked to test himself. There was a pipeline that ran along the Kanawha River, and he would see how far he could walk along that pipeline before he fell off.
I particularly liked to fish and go in the woods all the time. Sometimes hunting was part of the process. I've always been kind of a solitary person. I don't need a lot of people around me to function.
He had a little lopsided grin that was very charming. He had a winning way about him.
When Jerry was 12, tragedy struck the family. His older brother David was killed in Korea.
It was probably a day that has impacted my life forever. He was a person I looked up to a lot. He was almost a perfect person.
The fire he displayed in his junior year at East Bank High School raged across the state the following season. Averaging 34 points, West set a single-season scoring record. The word was out from Wheeling to Morgantown.
I can remember walking the streets of Charleston. You'd be on one side of Capitol Street with West, and people on the other side of the street said, "There goes West." You know, it's amazing. Everybody knowed him.
And he could do magic with the basketball. You know, just stop and go up on a dime and shoot the ball real quick and shoot over 50% from out about 18 feet. I'd never seen anything like that before.
In 1956, West again led his high school into the state playoffs.
We were in the finals of the regional, down 1 point to Huntington.
We called timeout and set up a play with Jerry. Jerry said, "I can get the tap, you know, I'll tap it to Jack Landers."
And I was like, I guess 6'3", and he like 6'7", and I knew I could get the jump. And, you know, I just said, look, I'm going to get this tap, and I'm just going to tap it forward because everyone wouldn't think I could get the jump.
It was perfect. Jerry tapped the ball to Jack, and he laid it up with a guy all over him, and it dropped through, and we won the ball game.
At the state's Final Four, West faced another All-Star, Willie Akers.
He was supposed to be the player of the year in the state tournament, and we were sort of got there by accident.
He ended up scoring 40
43, 44 points against us in the state tournament, in the semifinals of the state tournament, and he was just unstoppable.
The outcome probably influenced my life maybe more than anything. All of a sudden, I said to myself, I'm pretty good.
Coming in to play the championship game on Saturday, our coach walked into the dressing room and he said, I need to say something before you go out on the floor. He said, I saw this kid last night, West, I think is his name. Now, I want you to understand something, that he had a great game and he scored a lot of points, but I don't want you to be concerned because one man will never beat five.
With 39 points, Wes lifted his teammates to the state championship.
The next day is when East Bank, West Virginia was named West Bank for a day because East Bank High School was Jerry West at that time.
It's here. Inside is unlimited strength and power. This is Bowflex, an entire gym in one easy-to-use machine. So powerful, it delivers over 60 health club quality.
In '97, she did my best friend's wedding. It was so cute. She smiled, Julia Roberts smiled, Cameron smiled, Julia smiled, teeth everywhere. It should have been called my best friend's dentist. Something about Mary made things hilarious that...
Perfect.
Despite scholarship offers from colleges across the country, the 18-year-old decided to stay close to home. But when West arrived at the West Virginia campus in Morgantown, he missed Cabin Creek so much he might have been halfway around the world.
It's hard to be homesick for a town of 500 people, but I was terribly disillusioned by being away from home. I just was so quiet and so shy that I became more introverted. Every day was like a struggle to get through.
My first concern from his shyness was he might get homesick and go home, and that was a definite concern that we had.
He lived with a lady named Ann Donardi that was on the drugstore, and that's where that summer she took care of him.
He was so shy. When he first came to my house, he ran off. He left the school, and the other basketball players came and told me, Jerry has gone home. He quit school.
So he went back home, and they were a little worried about him. But anyway, he said there was no problem he was coming back. So we got there as freshmen, and we enjoyed it.
He wasn't the life of the party because he wasn't at the party.
We lived probably 100 yards from the field house, and we would play. Everybody would have games for 3 or 4 hours, and we'd go on home, and he'd be there practicing on the shooting. 2 or 3 hours later, here he comes. He just finished up.
Wes led the freshmen to an undefeated season, and he was tagged the heir apparent to All-American Hot Rod Hundley.
The toughest guy ever guarded me when I was in college was Jerry West when he was a freshman.
Hot Rod couldn't handle Jerry, and Jerry definitely could handle him.
I knew that he was going to be absolute superstar galore. You know, you just see it.
He could let you go by him and then block your shot against the board. He got up so quick. He was really a good jumper. At that time, he could get way over the rim.
In December 1957, 7 games into West's collegiate career, West Virginia surprised Kentucky in the Wildcats Holiday Tournament. As if to erase any doubt, West led the Mountaineers to a second upset the very next night. They ended North Carolina's 37-game winning streak.
Awesome the way he played in that tournament, and that's when they found out what a player he was. I don't think he had a lot of notoriety at first 5 or 6 games.
They had this big gold and blue carpet that led from their bench right out to the jump ball circle, and when they introduced the home team, they would run out on this carpet, and of course they always introduced Jerry West last.
Number 44 from Cabin Creek, West Virginia, Jerry West.
They might as well said the number 44, Jesus Christ from heaven.
Villanova's Raveling was among the first African Americans to play against West Virginia on their home floor.
Jerry brought the ball up the floor, and he made a couple moves and drove the basket, and Raveling kind of took him down pretty hard.
And silence went over the place. And I'm thinking to myself, dear God, please let this white boy get up off this floor, because if he doesn't, I am dead. And finally he got up and he came over and shook my hands, and that kind of diffused the crowd.
In his junior season, the Mountaineers lost the NCAA championship game to California. West scored 160 points in 5 games and won the Most Outstanding Player award of the Final Four. But it wasn't enough to kill the pain of defeat.
I've tried to reflect back on that game a lot, and it's something that I probably have kind of blanked out, because it was the first of many painful experiences I had in losing in the finals.
Jerry and I roomed together for years later with the Lakers, and that game was always something that stuck in his craw, because he just felt that if he could only get one more shot at it, he could have won the ballgame.
West would be denied redemption the next season when the Mountaineers were knocked out of the 1960 NCAA tournament in the second round. But the two-time All-American kept building a national legend. In a second victory at Kentucky, West was never more heroic, recording 33 points and 18 rebounds despite suffering a broken nose.
This one was awful, and I didn't think it was possible for someone to bleed that much, but at halftime they kind of got it under control, and I wanted to play.
If you were a Kentucky fan, you got the credit for breaking his nose, which I'm not proud of at all. And if you weren't a Kentucky fan, you got blamed for breaking his nose.
These Kentucky fans said, get him a powder puff, get him a powder puff.
And he came back in the second half. I think he had 23 points in the second half and just absolutely killed Kentucky.
He had cotton in his nose, and the guy put on a show.
He would just run by the bench, no mask, no nothing, broken nose. He wouldn't come out of the game. Blood running out, he'd just wipe it off with a towel and continue right on down the court.
Adolph Rupp, he said, son, he said, you're the greatest I've ever seen, and I've seen a million of them.
It was a pretty exciting night for me personally. When I look back on it, I said, boy, you were really crazy for doing that. And when your teammates can't even look at you, there's blood everywhere. I remember my shoes. We wore white shoes, and my shoes were red.
And that night, he was in the room, and he got in a tub, and his the blood just was rolling everywhere.
About 5 or 6 years ago, I received in the mail a towel that had blood all over it. And this kid had picked this towel up and saved it for years, and he sent it to me from that night.
People back in West Virginia still love to talk about Jerry West and the folklore of Jerry West. The stories I go back up there and you hear, they're not exaggerated, they're real.
What is not included in the legend of Jerry West is a theme of falling short that followed him throughout his NBA career. Rome, 1960. The United States Olympic basketball team is co-captained by Jerry West and Oscar Robertson. But just a few months earlier, West expected to be cut at the trials.
So when he had a really bad game that first game, I think he went like 1 for 13. He just didn't shoot well. He felt he wasn't going to make the team, and his whole heart was set on making that team.
And I told him, I said, Jerry, you know, if you don't make another basket the rest of this tournament, and we win, you're going to go, and if you don't go, I won't go. And I would never have gone if they didn't beat Jerry West in that team.
There's so much politics involved with that because the AE was very, very strong then. And they made sure they got some of their players on the team. It was an all-night vigil just to pick the team.
Jerry, I think he scored 38 in the final game of the Olympic trials there against the Peoria Caterpillars, and he just went on.
While helping the U.S. win gold, the Lakers' #1 draft choice learned in Rome he would be reunited with his college coach.
I picked up the Stars and Stripes in Rome one day, and the first thing I read that Fred Schaus was going to be the coach of the Lakers. I said, well, that's great. I'll get a chance to play right away. Little my surprise, it didn't happen that way. And I think the next day I saw that the Lakers were going to relocate to Los Angeles, and I was really excited about that.
Hot Rod, some of us call him Hot Dog. But anyway, he was walking around saying that West Virginia was taking over the Lakers.
Hot Rod was not half the athlete that West was. West really had all the tools that it took to play in the NBA.
While the Big O was tearing up the NBA, West struggled in his backup role with the Lakers.
I just wanted to be used in a more consistent manner. Some nights, if you played 20 or 25 minutes a night, and the next night you play 5 or 10, those are the things that I didn't understand.
But sometime after West made the All-Star team, Schaus inserted his gifted rookie into the starting lineup.
I did not want to bring Jerry along too fast. Here at West Virginia, we played him up front at a forward position. And going into the NBA, naturally he's going to go to the backcourt and play guard.
In the 1962 season, the Lakers turned on two of the brightest lights ever to shine in the NBA. West and Elgin Baylor averaged more than 30 points each. It was the best 1-2 scoring punch in the game.
Well, Jerry was going good. You know, we'd get the ball to Jerry. If I was going good, I wasn't getting the ball. And most of the time, Jerry would do most of the shooting and scoring.
When Baylor broke his kneecap in the first game of the 1965 Western Division Finals, West went on the most prodigious postseason scoring binge in NBA history, averaging 46 points against Baltimore. Although somewhat cooled in a losing effort against Boston in the finals, West still managed 34 a game.
A remarkable feat of one man becoming a one-man gang. He was at his best. He was a player possessed.
If you got him to his spot, he didn't even look. I mean, it was up and in. And he went up like a shot. I mean, he'd get up and out, bing.
When Jerry and I were rooming together, he said to me, he says, I feel so in sync, I don't feel I'm ever going to miss a shot.
West's need to be perfect led to moments of absolute joy or periods of despair that approached self-torture, depending on the game's outcome. The word excuse was not in his vocabulary.
If he didn't come through and make the perfect play when it was needed, time after time after time, he would be so upset with himself that he could hardly stand it.
Once he hit the court, he was deadly serious about the job at hand. In big ball games, he would get so upset just before tip-off. He'd have to go back to the dressing room where he would regurgitate.
At one point, he had a sports car, and only one child could get in the car with him on the way back. And when they lost, nobody wanted to be in the car. And when they won, everybody did.
If he had a bad game, he did not rest. And believe me, having room with him, I can tell you this unequivocally, he did not rest until he rectified that bad game.
Once we were in the airport, just walking through an airport, and he called me over and said, "This is it, I'm through." My boss at the Herald Examiner, Bud Ferrillo, overheard it.
I got jazzed up about Jerry West telling me he was going to quit. I believed it.
And I said, "Bud, I've been through this 8 straight years. Don't take it too seriously." And sure enough, he came back and played about 3 more years.
On behalf of the players, we really appreciate your support. We're going to do our best to bring the championship here this year.
Bill Sharman took over the Lakers for the 71-72 season. He had stature because he'd been a great pro himself. He was the most thoroughly prepared coach maybe in the history of basketball.
Step number 1 of Sharman's new system was moving 33-year-old Jerry West to point guard and Gail Goodrich to off guard.
Jerry sacrificed his scoring to lead the team in assists, and he also led the whole league that year in assists.
In 1972, the Lakers recorded the best season in league history. They won 69 games, including 33 straight. In the finals, the smart money was on the Lakers to beat the Knicks. West was not so sure.
I just remember him being so nervous. He just felt that something bad was going to happen and he was going to be denied again.
I remember very quiet early evening steak dinners where he ate and we sat and watched. He was pretty wound up.
The 1972 Lakers cruised to the title by beating the Knicks in 5 games. It would be West's only championship in 9 finals.
You've heard that song, "Is That All There Is?" That's pretty much how I felt. Is that all there is? It's still never, even to this day, it will never replace the pain of some of the other losses.
At the party for the only world championship team he was ever with, he was out watching a fight.
After making first-team All-NBA for the 10th time in 13 seasons, Wes played in only 31 games in 1974. He reached a decision at training camp in October.
Saturday morning, I get a call, and Jerry calls me and he says, "Pete, I'm going to retire." The phone and calling my heart doctor. I picked it back up and I said, "Jerry, you're going to what?" "I'm going to retire." And I said, "Well, wait till I get out there." And so I went out to his home and I spent the whole day, and I couldn't change him from retiring. Calls me and he says, "Pete, I'm going to retire." And after dropping the phone and calling my heart doctor, I picked it back up and I said, "Jerry, you're going to what?" "I'm going to retire." And I said, "Well, wait till I get out there." And so I went out to his home and I spent the whole day, and I couldn't change him from retiring. Jerry has informed us that he is going to hang them up. He is going to retire as of right now. I feel fine, health. Is going to hang them up. He is going to retire as of right now. I feel fine, health. I'm very, very healthy, and I feel great. As a matter of fact, I don't feel great about making a decision like this, but I do feel that physically I was sound, and that I would have been able to play this year, but not the way that I wanted to play, and that's the difference. The night before he retired, we played an exhibition game, and I think Jerry scored something like 36, 38 points in that exhibition game. And it was a Friday, I'll never forget it.
We spent a lot of time that night lamenting, but I knew that probably at that particular time he was going to walk away, and it was the most difficult thing that I ever saw a man go through.
All the weight in the world was off my shoulders. Finally, I could go back, I thought, to being an average person, and it just didn't work that way. For me, I needed something competitive to do.
The crowd stops, you stop playing, you stop shooting jump shots, your life sort of shuts down just all of a sudden. And with Jerry, this happened in his life. He'd done it all. I mean, he was the best basketball player in the world. He was still a legend, but the crowd had stopped. And there was silence, in his life.
Meanwhile, Wes' marriage to Jane, his college sweetheart, was falling apart.
I just don't think they had ever had a normal married life. They just really didn't have any common ground by the time he finished.
He wound up getting divorced from his longtime wife, Jane. He went through some tough moments there.
I'd known Jane, his family, sort of grown up with him somewhat when I was with the Lakers, and it was a very sad time. It was a very sad time for Jerry, and it was a very sad time for a lot of people who watched he and his family go through that.
Golf, perhaps because of its solitary nature, became Wes' obsession. He often played 36 holes a day.
It didn't take him very long to figure out that you couldn't play golf all the time and be happy either, though. He tried that for a while, and that didn't work.
I felt very sorry for him. He was depressed. He was dragging around. He had nothing to do. He was lost soul. I thought maybe that he'd do something crazy.
As Wes struggled to regain some measure of emotional stability, he met a Pepperdine cheerleader named Karen Bouwa.
He was very unhappy, and that's how we became friends. We used to just talk on the phone, and I guess he felt that he had a sounding board. It was a nice friendship to begin with.
Karen brought him some new happiness, something that he probably didn't have for a couple of years as he was fighting the strains of a early retirement and not knowing exactly what he wanted to do. And I think Karen brought a very settling effect to him.
In 1976, Wes accepted Jack Kent Cooke's offer to coach the Lakers. Although Wes lifted what had been a losing team to a league-best 53 wins, he was known to have a short fuse.
So we were running the clock down to get the last shot, and I had the ball. And I think I kicked the ball into Kareem with about 10 seconds, or 8 seconds. But Kareem shot the ball really quick. So the other team had a chance to get a rebound and get down court and get off a pretty good shot. And so he walked into the locker room and he jumped right there. He said, "Norman, who shot the ball?" And Kareem went, "I did." He said, "You gave him the ball too soon." I just went, "I can't win, man. I can't win."
But West was alive and focused. So focused that he virtually ignored his wife for the first 3 weeks of their marriage in 1978. The Lakers were in the playoffs.
I didn't know if it was me, you know. I was a young bride. I didn't know if I had done something wrong. But it was just him.
After 3 seasons as a coach, winning almost 60% of his games, West stepped down as suddenly as he had retired from playing.
He never actually announced he was not going to coach anymore. He said, "Well, all of you who are close to me know my decision." We didn't know.
Jerry West is named GM of the Lakers and builds one of the most durable dynasties in the NBA. But with all the winning, the specter of defeat remained fresh in his psyche.
Holy cow! The snap to Elway.
What the heck is going on?
Following his coaching career, West spent the next 2 years as a consultant to Jerry Buss, who had bought the Lakers from Jack Kent Cooke in 1979. Then, at a press conference to announce the firing of Lakers coach Paul Westhead, Jerry learned of his next assignment.
We have appointed Jerry West as offensive coach for the Lakers. His duties will begin immediately. Pat Riley will stay with the Lakers as coach.
I never heard anything quite like that in my life, but I quickly dispelled that rumor.
I feel in my heart that he is the head coach, and hopefully my position here won't be a long-range position.
It wasn't. By early 1982, West was back at his desk in the front office. That summer, he was named GM.
He got into coaching, and that wasn't satisfying him. But then finally, this general manager thing came about, and it clicked.
Showtime! Slam dunk! Slam dunk!
With West swinging the deals upstairs and Magic directing Showtime down on the court, the Lakers reached 8 NBA Finals in the 1980s, winning 5 times. But for the man who seems to care more than anyone else, the pressure was sometimes unbearable.
I'm in the restroom one day and at the Forum, and I'm washing my hands, looking in the mirror, and the door slams open, and in comes Jerry, raving maniac, completely yelling, screaming. His face is red. There's smoke coming out of his ears, coming out of his nose. He just stops dead in his tracks and looks at me and says, "I've had enough of this. I quit." And I'm thinking there's Kareem down on the court, Magic Johnson, James Worthy, Byron Scott, Michael Cooper, Kurt Rambis.
But the taste of victory was too sweet for the one who had gone so long without it. Even after the curtain rang down on Johnson and Abdul-Jabbar, West stayed in the game, looking always to replenish the franchise.
I'm watching a college game, and they'll say, "Well, Jerry West is in the stands." He's irreplaceable. He's relentless when it comes to his pursuit of talent.
He was so determined to get Kobe Bryant after he saw him. He came out here, worked out one day for the Lakers before the draft. And West called me right afterwards and said, "Chick, I got a guy I got to have." And I said, "Who was it?" And he told me his name. I said, "I never heard of him." He said, "He's just coming out of high school." I said, "You got to be crazy."
I mean, the workouts were very different from the other teams. Other teams had you doing a lot of drills. Jerry just wanted to see you play.
In 1996, West made his boldest move. He traded center Vlade Divac to the Hornets for the 17-year-old Bryant.
Kobe Bryant. How the hell does one know that Kobe Bryant is going to be probably the successor to Michael Jordan?
By trading Divac, West had enough room under the salary cap to sign the main man in the Lakers' future, Shaquille O'Neal.
It was a gamble of the franchise. They could have had no center.
He had, in a lot of ways, purged the roster
to get a guy who had just played nothing but high school ball, and to get a guy who a lot of people like to give a bad time about rap music and free throw shooting. He took a lot of grief for that.
Turned out to be the move of the decade.
For all his candor, experience, and talent, West was still terrified of losing. In the spring of 2000, when the Lakers were winning their first NBA title in 12 years, the architect of their success was nowhere to be seen.
He can't take it. He can't take the stress. Believe me, he knows everything that happened at those games. The kids and I will come home and say, you should have seen, this play or whatever, and he goes, yeah, I know. Somehow he knows what happened.
People around him joke because they know how wound up he gets, but there's a serious side to it as well, and he's been in the hospital the last couple of years, and the stress has got to him.
His heart gets off rhythm, and it's called atrial fibrillation, and it's easily corrected, usually with medication, but it's something to be concerned about.
After years of threatening to retire, West finally called it quits after 38 years in the Lakers organization. The press conference was vintage West.
It's a little bit strange when you have a legendary guy like Jerry West in the sports figure to retire. He's usually here, and I know this is a little bit awkward, and hopefully you guys will understand this is the way he wanted to go away.
If you know Jerry, you knew he wouldn't be there. It obviously would have been an emotional experience for him. And I think rather than put himself through that type of pain, the easiest thing for him was to write a letter.
While West cited stress as the reason he stepped down, there were other issues that impacted his decision.
I think there was a lot of different factors. I think the rise of Johnny Buss and Jeannie Buss in positions of authority, along with Phil Jackson coming in and having his own ideas about players. The fact that it's been 40 years, I think all of that had something to do with Jerry going.
You look at his career combination, the player he was, and then the front office executive he was, that's sort of unparalleled in the history of the NBA. Nobody's ever done that.
I think it's fitting that his profile is the NBA logo, because he epitomizes everything the game represents. Competition, great athletes, emotion.
Never was there a time when I've ever been around him that this is Jerry West superstar. It's Jerry West. I'm your friend, what can I do to help you?
In the summers, West, still the outdoorsman, likes to unwind by taking exotic fishing trips with his family.
We have dinner usually about once every 2 months, and he'll sit there and he says, I just sometime look out and I can't believe it. The little kid from Cabin Creek, he says, I can't believe what's happened in my life. I don't understand why I was so blessed.
When he played, West was so cool that sports writers strained to capture him in a word or phrase. Among the attempts were assassin, Mr. Clutch, Cool Hand Luke. Off the court, West was less visible. When the NBA celebrated its 50th birthday, he was the only living retired player among the top 50 not to appear at the ceremony. His excuse? He was getting a nose job. When it came to watching his Lakers perform, West was even more uncomfortable. You see my outside, he said, but you don't see my inside. And it's awful in here. The compulsion with winning, it's a sickness. For ESPN Classics Sports Century, I'm Chris Fowler.